A B minus at best.
Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Eric,
I'm Ty.
and this is ShantottoCast, the weekly-ish podcast
yeah.
about Final Fantasy trading card game,
Yeah, this is our 7th episode.
and our last.
Yep.
I'm going to participate in a self-immolation protest, and it's very fitting for this week's theme because we're talking about fire.
Almost specifically mono fire, but we're going to be talking about fire as a whole. So something that comes up a lot, and it's been kind of coming up a lot, especially since like Opus 3 and Opus 4 when we really started playing.
Yep.
Is why don't you play fire? And why don't people play fire? And why doesn't fire see a lot of representation?
Mm-hmm.
And even just this week on the Reddit, someone just said, "Why does nobody play mono fire?"
Yeah,
and
right.
We have answers. Though this is also a fun time for us to do this episode. This is an episode we've been planning to do literally since
For over a month,
over
at least.
I'd argue this is something that we were planning on doing from the beginning.
Yeah, we talked about this one when we were making our list of potential topics. This was
I think
was in there.
I think we still have like 6 or 7 more of like our original ideas. To
Yeah,
go through.
but
This was one of them. This was actually almost our first episode.
I think the way we phrased it in the notes specifically was, why does mono fire suck?
Yeah.
Which kind of an incorrect phrasing there.
Yeah.
But
so I think a good almost disclaimer at the beginning is we're not saying that if you run mono fire you're bad. We're not saying if you love mono fire, if someone won your locals with mono fire, they're not a bad player. They didn't bring a bad deck.
Yeah.
They're working with what they got. And fire as a whole just doesn't have the best representation. It doesn't have a lot of the strengths that other colors have. It's still fun and it's still a great color to play. Like we both really enjoy playing it.
I mean, I think one of the first times I won one of our locals was with my mono fire.
Yeah, mono fire aggro.
I mean, granted, I got some really lucky specials off.
Yeah.
But remember that time?
Yeah,
remember
that was a lot of fun.
4 cloud specials in a row.
Yeah, that was an interesting.
I was mean.
Yeah, and that's the thing is fire is kind of like that. So I think first thing we should probably talk about is, despite the fact that we're saying all this, we should probably talk about the intrinsic problems with red against all TCGs.
Right.
Because red is a color in everything. It was in Duel Masters. Was it in the dot hack card game that we opened like ages ago?
I don't know the balancing on that one though. We'll have to ask around.
It's in Weiss Schwartz. The Weiss it's a little
Weiss
different.
It has nothing to do. Yeah, it's good and
But Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh in a way, and then obviously Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
And then Hearthstone doesn't really have a red, but so there are intrinsic problems with red across all the colors.
Mm-hmm. So it's really only got one style. It's kind of known as the blow your load archetype. You kind of do, you use a lot of resources for potentially little payoff, and it's kind of geared towards aggro specifically. The color theory only allows for aggression, and I'm glad you put it in the notes with my phrasing. I like to call it the one-trick pony. Yeah. It only really does one thing really well.
Yeah, and that's the basis of red deck wins, which is a common archetype in Magic, where it's the only reason you play red is so you could win as fast as possible.
Yep.
And that has been viable, and that has been a really good deck.
Like, if your opponent doesn't get a chance to play cards.
Yeah, like in this last meta, there was Hazoret, or like the red aggro, and that was really, really good. And it can be good, and it can be great, but still, that deck still only had one real win condition, and it was just put as much damage onto the board as fast as possible, win as fast as possible, get rid of everything.
Yep, the win condition is super specific and basic.
Yeah.
And that's all it's got going for it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what it does really well in Final Fantasy before we go into what it doesn't do.
Yeah. So it does the most unconditional damage. Because something that we've seen in Ice and Lightning specifically is that they have to target an active or they have to target a doll. And you can see this in a lot of cards like Brynhildr is the first one that comes to mind, where it's just deal 7k, EX3 drop.
Mm-hmm.
If you compare that to Aldermatch, I think the card is, it's deal 7k, EX3 drop.
A Drumlock,
but it has to target an active forward.
Yep, like or some of the Shivas. Yeah,
and there's a lot of cards that... Yeah, Shiva's another good example of that, where we have like a 2-drop Shiva or the 1-drop Shiva that deals 4k to a doll, I think.
Yeah.
And then we have the 1-drop Ifrit that's I think deals 3k to anything, and then
Yep.
we also have a 2-drop that deals 5k to anything,
Mhm.
and like we have a lot of that.
Yep. So Fire's got those unconditional damage summons and abilities.
Mm.
We also have a lot of really strong forwards that don't really rely on other characters. Emperor Zandi, Cloud 8, Opus 8, right?
Yeah, that's
okay.
opposite.
Yeah, the Vermilion Birds, particularly Juyu,
Mm-hmm.
and then Lednar, which is really effective at blocking.
Yeah,
And these cards have a lot of widespread buffs as well.
yeah,
So
yeah. So because especially there's a lot of cards that just kind of stand on their own. You play them,
Yep.
they're completely within themselves. And red also has a lot of buffing. It's not as big. I guess it is kind of like it's probably the best buffing in the game.
it's
because-
temporary buffing,
yeah.
though, not as big as Earth, just in general.
Yeah, though to argue, Lise is arguably one of the best buffers in the game.
This is true.
3-drop 7k that gives everything 1k,
Mhm.
or gives everything including yourself 2k if you're at 5 damage. And you also have Lebrow. A lot of the red cards give power, or you could tap it
Yep.
to give something power.
Lava Spider Golem.
Selfie gives an attacking forward 2k.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff like that, and like you said, the only time that we ever really see that is in Earth, outside of the anthems.
Right.
But it's just a really good color to just kind of buff everything or give certain power in certain conditions. And then another big thing with fire, and the reason red does well in other games is haste. And
Haste is gross.
yeah. So fire and lightning are like the two most hasty archetypes.
Mhm.
But fire, I think, just has the edge on it. Fire has more low cost haste.
Yeah.
So there's cards like Tifa, and then Belias that gives haste. Like there's tons of other cards in red that just have haste to give haste. Ranger is another good one.
Ranger is my favorite.
Yeah. And then right now we're starting to see, I don't want to say a shift, but we are starting to see ever since Opus 5 some cards that just kind of stick on the board a bit more, or you have a way to bring them back.
Yeah.
So Phoenix is a great example of this. The 7-drop Phoenix is an insane card. Really, really good. And then there's also Opus 8 Cloud, who can bring himself back, and then he also has his very strong ETB, again,
Yep.
if he does that. There's Lednar, which is such a sticky card, and a tax card, which you wouldn't usually see in red.
Yeah, you wouldn't imagine you'd see that.
Yeah, but it was funny because I went through the chapters to check on him, because
Yeah.
they changed a lot of colors of
Well,
cards.
right.
And Lednar was in red before, but he used to cost 3 to break instead
Yup.
of 2.
And that is actually a big difference.
Yeah, it's a huge difference. But so Fire's starting to get these things that they're really good, and Fire does have good cards, but at the same time, there's still a lot of things that kind of hold it from being better, and that's what we're mainly going to be focusing on.
Yeah. So let's get a little chat going on what holds red back from being better. So despite the fact that red has a lot of capability for AoE damage and haste and strong as hell aggro, that's really all it's got.
Yeah.
There's no value cards outside of a few particular ones, and even those can be subjective, or you can pick and choose, cherry pick what you want out of those.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because the big thing is like when right now in Fire, Belias is your best card draw engine, which is
basically, yeah.
which is sad, and it's a really good card. Belias is fantastic, but it's the fact that that's the only way you can draw cards.
Yep. And so Fire's also got a lot of, actually something we didn't mention, or maybe we did kind of put it. I don't remember what we put in here, but like there's not anything in particular that red has that it's kind of shifting also towards a if you've taken this much damage
Yeah.
engine,
Yeah.
but it's a very, very, very slow,
And
arduous shift,
yeah.
and it's also a pain to get online.
Yeah, you have to really rely on your opponent to put you at that 7 damage. And it
Yeah.
helps because the game is more geared towards that.
Right, but like getting to 5 damage to get most of those things active.
Yeah, or even 4 or 3.
3 or 4,
still.
yeah, that's
Like,
still it's dangerous. It's got its payoffs, but like there are it's a risk reward system, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I would argue that holds red back right now, but later on, if they capitalize on it more, it can be a pro rather than a con.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And it will eventually get there. But that being said, like you do have to be at damage for some cards to get online.
True.
And that's something that does suck. And the other thing is if the other person's playing control, and if they're not swinging in for damage, if they're just building a board, you don't have a great answer to that because usually you have to 2-for-1 an opponent's card.
Exactly.
So you always have to put 2 cards into every 1 card that the opponent has, or you always have to put a bit too much resources into killing something. And
it's the only time when the phrasing the only health that matters is your last one actually isn't true.
Yeah.
Because you do want to take that damage and get to that 5 or 6 point. So if you're not getting there, then the other points actually matter.
Yeah. And we also mentioned just a lot of really good cards, but a lot of powerful cards in Fire also have a bit of a drawback.
Yeah.
And it's very in flavor for Fire. But a good example is Dark Lord and how he mills you 10. That goes in not even into discard, but into remove from play, which is a zone that we have no way of interacting with right now.
Yep.
And then we also have Cloud, who does the same thing. On Revive, he's a better card, but still the 10 from top hurts, especially if you're late game. When you're sitting on 12 cards,
you better win
next
damn turn.
Yeah, I better hope I win. And then also Bahamut EXs, or the 4-drop Bahamut. The one that deals damage to you whenever you play it. Deals like something.
6-1?
I want to say Opus 6.
Yeah, I want to say it's Opus 6.
Deals you a point of damage and you don't get EX, which sucks.
Yep.
And then there's also the Opus 8 Bahamut, which is you can only pay backup mana. And then we're even seeing that now on a new card that just got spoiled, I think today, this morning. Bergen, I think his name is Bergan. You
Borgen?
have... Yeah.
Maybe Borgen?
Somewhere in that realm?
Yeah, something.
We didn't play 12.
Well, I did. I just
then you
lost
should
my
know
data.
this, obviously.
Okay, it's been a long time. I played the game right after it came out, and I haven't touched it since.
But for him, you have to tap. You can only play him using Fire Backup CP.
Yeah.
And then even Zand, kind of in a way, where you have to pay exclusively Fire CP to play him. That's not as big of a drawback, but it's still there. Like a lot of the strong cards still have that drawback, and even some of these cards don't even need that drawback a lot.
That's true. They really are balanced on their own, or close to balanced.
Yeah.
So like the drawback can kind of be, you can reel it back a little bit. You don't need to. You can let the chain go some more. You don't have to hold that tight leash.
Yeah.
And I did really like actually that other Fire forward that got announced recently, the 6-drop one.
The is that the box topper?
Is it? It's the full art.
Yeah.
That's
that's going to be the box topper.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't read into a lot of the details on that one, admittedly. So.
Yeah, that's something that we could kind of mention a little bit later.
Yeah.
Because that's also another site theme. Sorry to backpedal for a second, but another good thing in Fire is that it gives you a lot of free stuff.
This is true.
Because Garland, for example, sadly not a great card, but you get to play backup for free. Oron, and we're starting to see some more of those, but still, those cards aren't great. Like, those cards aren't even played, especially Oron and Garland.
But those cards are kind of needed on the budget, and because of that whole 2-for-1 thing you mentioned earlier, you're getting rid of resources so often, you need a way to build them back up. Yeah,
but at the same time, Fire doesn't do anything outside of that to lead on to resources. There's not a lot of stuff that's great on curve, or things that are just on curve with nothing. And this all kind of culminates in Fire just lacking really strong staples.
Yep.
Because if you think of any color, you can immediately bring up 4 or 5 cards, and it's like, oh, this card's a must-run. Like in Wind, you've got Bartzy X. Ice, you've got Sephiroth, or Laswell, Orphan, Sid Rendell. There's tons in Ice.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you even take, Lightning, Zemus, Alcid, Edea, Estinian.
Even Light and Dark have their staples, which is fun.
But Fire, it's Lise, Cloud... That's about it. It's...
Yeah, from there on it goes just into personal play style and preference, and even that, I had to yank a bunch of stuff out of my mono Fire because it just wasn't performing anymore.
Yeah.
Can't get it up.
Yeah. That's one way to put Fire.
Can't stoke the flames.
Yeah, hopefully. Oh my god. Hopefully this next set will be a growth pack. Welcome back to ShantottoCast After Dark. Where we just make bad jokes like that for an hour.
Good thing I'm going to burn myself alive today.
Yeah.
Get ready for the barbecue, everybody.
But to bring back to something obviously very, very sober is the fact that there's all this cost for not as much as you want to do.
Yeah. You overpay for a lot of things.
Yeah.
So cost for the damage you do is pretty often under curve. A lot of cards are 4-drop 7k damage, which usually that's just 1k too few.
Yeah. And usually has some other thing with it, but
yeah,
sometimes it's not worth it. Sometimes it's not great enough.
Like the new Ifrita, I think, right? She's a modular, and you could potentially get all 3 effects, but like the chances of getting all that, having all those Ifrits in damage, or in break zone rather, I don't know, just the odds of that feel a little, like if it was 3, then yeah, that's fine. But who's running that many Ifrits?
Yeah, really excited for this next cycle though. It will be interesting.
Oh, that is true. Yeah, no, the new draw engine cycle's great.
But it's still, like it. And then, like you mentioned before, the Ifrit that deals 7k for 4, or deals 8k on EX. That's cool, but we also have Bahamut, which is 4-drop, deal 8k and remove it from play. So you get 2 good things out of it.
Fire's just lacking that one little clause at the end.
Yeah, and then like almost all 4-drop forwards are 8k, and like that's fine, but they rarely kind of come with anything that pushes them over. And then another good example of this is like Black Waltz is, I think, really close to being a staple in Fire. It's a really good card in Fire, but it still depends on the amount of cards that the opponent has in hand. So you can't always get it off. Sometimes it's just a little too under. Sometimes the opponent just, they just played a Sephiroth, so they have no cards in hand. And it's like, oh, well, I get to deal 3k to it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the fact that everything is so conditional that makes it hard to kind of play with and play around.
And another thing that we can point out, this isn't really as much of an issue for players like myself or Juan, but cards rely too heavily on chip damage, 3k, then 4k, then whatever. You have to combo, but you have to combo just the damage, and that can be really, really finicky.
Yeah.
Especially if players like myself, playing against it, Juan and I both run Minwu in water decks.
Yeah.
So like that's not an issue for us. We don't care. I still run the 5-drop water Cecil that prevents all damage from abilities and summons.
Yeah.
So I don't care.
What was it?
But
Aerith is also this. She's
Aerith
also
is the
a
same
really
as
great
well.
answer
Yeah.
to that. And then there's a new card that
Aerith.
they just spoiled that I forget the card, but it's you can't take damage less.
Yeah. So like those cards are coming back sort of.
Yeah.
And so playing against that is becoming more and more of an issue for Fire players, and you kind of almost lose the ability if you're going for burn to play Fire. You can't really do mid-range Fire.
Yeah.
So
and another aspect of this is a lot of these are on like 1 or 2 use cards. They're effects that you can only get once per turn, or that you don't have to pay for, which is cool. Or it's just on ETB, or it's on a die trigger, or it's on a bomb or something, which is really being played. But if you compare that to Wind, because Wind has a lot of chip damage, and Wind has issues with Minwu, but with Wind it's all on cards that get repeat effects, cards that it's like, oh, it deals 5k, and then here's this thing that deals 2k, 7k to board, when you have to worry about, okay, I'm going to Bahamut, and then I have to tap something, or I have to tap this, pay 2, and then tap this, pay 3, and then do that. Like a good example of this is, I think Opus 6 Rain, the one that it's when he deals damage to a player or a forward, deal 8k to something.
No,
you
you
still have
Lan.
to pay.
Rain is the searcher for him. Yeah.
Where, and then you have to deal 8k to it by paying 4. Like it's.
But you get to select, and they can cancel before you pay.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of the nice upside to it.
Yeah.
But still.
But still having to pay 4 for that effect, because it is a recursive effect, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's just the fact that there's so many conditions to it. He has to be swinging, he has to be blocked or be not blocked, and you have to pay 4 for it. And then if you compare that to like Ice, like for example, like Ice, you have Genesis, you swing with him, he lands. Like that's conditional enough. They discard a card. Like you don't have to pay for it.
Yep.
There's nothing else that you have to do about it. It just happens. And a lot of colors have stuff like that where it just happens, or you have to pay 1 or 2 for it. But Fire has all these like costs leading into it, and like all this stuff.
Weird thought. Could you imagine if when you had to discard and you had no hand, you went negative, so you drew less to the point where you just don't
you only
draw
drew
anymore.
1. Oh my god.
Yeah, or you only draw 1. Oh god, that would be Ice would legit
give me-
only be played.
Give me that card.
That'd
Please.
only be the
Oh
color
god,
display.
I love that. But
Oh, that'd be so nasty. Sorry, just tangent.
yeah.
Digress.
But the thing is, I feel like we can kind of transition from that into, basically it just doesn't do enough.
Mhm.
You're paying for too much to not do enough, and then you have to stack it. Like I said earlier, you always have to like 2 for 1, or you have to 3 for 1. You have to put way too many resources into just killing another resource.
Yep. I don't necessarily fully agree with this point, but it's the only color that doesn't use Yuri to his full advantage. Yeah, you can dull something. Yeah, you can draw a card. Yeah, you can whatever. He's got his uses, but like Yuri doesn't really fit with red.
Yeah, if anything, like red's the color that could get the most use out of his deal damage
Yeah.
ability, but that's not good enough.
Yuri is more of you put it in to compensate, not to buff. That's kind of Yuri's function in mono fire. Obviously, that's not the case if you're mixing with other colors, right?
Yeah.
But that's not mono at that point. So yeah, you're right. I think Yuri is still useful, but he's more of a compensation tactic than anything else.
That and Yuri's a really good control card.
Yeah.
But in red, you're primarily playing aggro, and
Right.
that's the issue.
And
So
also with the decline of mid-range and tempo fire, less and less useful over time.
Yeah, and we're starting to see some more use in fire recently because Ice Fire and Earth Fire have been doing well.
I'm so happy.
And we're very happy about that. I love playing Earth Fire. Earth Fire is a blast to play. It's a blast to play against. It's really interesting, and I love it. And even Ice Fire is really fun.
Yeah, well, that was Kim's deck in Opus 3 and 4, and then when I wasn't able to play for a while.
Yeah.
But now it's a thing again.
Yeah, now
she's
like,
able to
really
play
good.
again because she loves that deck.
But that being said, Fire by itself isn't a control deck. It's not a slow deck. You want to hit 5 backups eventually, but the thing is, if you're just playing aggro, you'd rather go for the kill, or you're just playing your backups because you get the VV-ETB, you get the Black Waltz ETB.
Yep.
You get something that can kill something when you play that backup.
Lulu to remove a backup.
Exactly. So you're not going to immediately race to hit 5 backups, unlike Ice or Lightning or even Earth. Or
You're
Wind.
comfortable at 3.
Yeah, you're comfortable at like 2
4.
or 3. So that's why they can't use Yuri to the fullest extent.
Yeah.
Because you can't just get the 2 activations.
It's too costly.
Yeah. And then I think arguably the biggest we actually wrote down is usually worst color when splashing. We can kind of strike that off the list.
Yeah, that's not necessarily true anymore.
Because that's, like we said earlier, Ice Fire, Earth Fire is doing pretty well right now. But something that I do think is a good point is that it doesn't have a proper engine.
Yeah.
And there's, mind you, other colors have engines that aren't great, or they have issues or something like that. But if you compare anything in Fire to like Layla Vikings, and to be fair, like Layla Vikings arguably the best engine in the game, but you also compare that to like the Flan engine in Earth Ice, or if you compare that to the Crystal Chronicles engine in Wind, or the Mother Father engine in Wind, or I'm trying to think of just any other. Earth really doesn't have an engine, does it? Or the 6 engine in Ice. Like the thing is, there's all these really good engines across all colors, but Fire doesn't have that. Neither does Earth. At least as far as we could tell. Feel free to throw it in the comments.
I would argue it does. I'm just trying to think. I wasn't expecting the question, so I don't know.
Like the only one I could really think of, like there's no card that could search and then give you advantage, and that's kind of an intrinsic problem with Fire.
I'd say Star Sybil.
Oh, in Earth, yeah. You do have a bit of an 11 engine.
You have 11 kind of. I mean, Shantotto and Prish, if you want to go down that. Like people are building Prish power decks. Yeah, and they're good.
Yeah, but comparing that, even that's better than what Fire has.
Yeah,
because
very much so.
The closest. It's funny. I was gonna say, oh, you have 7 searchers, but the 7 searchers are in Earth. Like everything is in Earth, and they are starting to get some more like consistency.
Oh wait, you have Zac that searches Cloud, which are both in Fire.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay. Ooh, that completely changes everything.
Yeah, you get off your high horse, Ty.
Yeah. Like the only 2 like really good searchers I could think of in the deck are like Moblok, and he's not even great, and then like the Marsh forward that lets you reveal top 5, and like those are okay, but it doesn't have that central engine. There's no big thing that you could bring with a mono Fire deck that is on even close to Layla Viking or the
Yeah.
Flans or FCC or anything like that.
Like, I feel like Fire doesn't really know what it wants to be anymore. Like, it started off as basic burn and aggro,
yeah.
and it started shifting, and now it's getting pulled in like 4 or 5 different directions. It just doesn't know. It doesn't. It's figuring. It's like an adolescent teenager,
Yeah.
which is redundant, but trying to figure out, what high school to go to, and
Yeah.
afterward what college to go to and what career path to take, and
What weird anime club to join.
right, Dad, why don't you love me? All the usual angsty shit, right?
Kageyama, why don't you love me? But it's so I don't think I mentioned this on the podcast before. I probably have, to be honest. But something interesting about chapters is Ice in chapters wasn't good up until I think their chapter 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, it took a long time to get there.
And to make Ice a little bit better for Opus, they started giving some of the power cards a little earlier, so that's why we got Genesis. I think was originally supposed to be in like Opus 8 or 9 if they followed chapters,
Right.
But he was put into Opus 3 for us, and there were some cards that they got later on that we got earlier on.
God, how different would this game be if we didn't have Genesis and Opus 3?
Oh God, Ice.
Wow,
that's a
weird.
topic for another day.
Yeah, it's a very. Oh, we
But-
should alternate realities.
Oh, AU. Oh,
There we
that'd be
go.
interesting. But the thing is, Fire never really got that treatment. Fire's always had some pretty good cards, and Fire was pretty good in chapters as far as I can understand.
Yeah,
we don't know anything
was
about
normal.
the meta of it.
It was normal.
Yeah, it was just kind of that middle of the road color. But now it's kind of in the current TCG, it's just kind of fallen off. It's not as good as it was in chapters. To be fair, nothing's as good as it was in chapters.
True.
But it just doesn't have that same niche to it.
It doesn't have that oomph. It doesn't have that
Yeah.
same. Yeah, it doesn't have the same niche. Yeah. I think we both could agree that we wish Fire had more of a risk-reward system to it. Because that's kind of what it can go for now, but
Yeah.
it's so bare bones.
Yeah.
We need those self-harm engines. We need those value for damage engines. I mean, hell, I think if they made a heal card, it would be going into Fire first.
That would be cool. It's weird because thematically it would be in water.
It should be in water,
because water has all the white mages
or
and
light,
stuff, but,
or light.
Yeah.
But that being said,
Yeah.
it would be the most useful
Yeah.
in Red because of the self-harm.
But talking about what we want for Red,
Yeah.
we're gonna end it on a nicer note. Here's what we hope starts happening in Red, and these are things that it is making Red look better. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's good stuff. The first example is Cloudy X, the Opus 8 Cloud, is a really good card. Iroha, not seeing a ton of play, but still a good card in the right direction. It's on curve. It has 2 very good effects. And then Lise is a fantastic card and a great card for the direction of Fire. All of those are great, and they were all in Opus 8. And from some of the cards that we've been seeing in Opus 9 reveals, it's still kind of going that way. We're still getting some really good
Opus 9 looks like
cards.
a really good support set.
It does.
I'm very happy with what we got. We have maybe 15 cards so far.
We're up to 20 something now.
Oh
yeah.
Well, I did. I did miss a few yesterday. So.
Yeah, and it's Fire right now is going in a direction, and it is seeing play, especially as of Opus 8, where we are seeing Fire, Earth, Ice, Earth. We've said that 3 times already, but it's starting to get better. And I feel like this also comes from kind of continuing the themes of the damage and self-harm and being able to play with that a little bit more. Obviously, it's risky, as we mentioned before, but if we keep getting cards on level with Lise and Cloud, it'll only get better.
Yeah. I think I think the Warrior of Light support would be good.
More
because we don't really have a lot. I mean, we have Soul and Aegis, and Soul and Aegis.
Yeah, especially if they
What
make
if?
Fire the Warriors of Light kind of color.
I
It
don't
would be
think
great.
Warriors of Light need a particular color.
Yeah,
I
I
think
know.
it's good that they're spread out because it gives people options. I do really like Bill's 3-color variant. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because right now they have Soul Aegis, Warrior of Light, which is a really good card.
multiple
and then
different
Lurrus
versions.
and stuff
Everyone
like
wanted,
that. And then you could also run Wolp as well as Light.
True. That's true. Yeah, actually, yeah.
So if they just expand upon that, if they put in more Warriors of Light, like Red,
Yeah.
that kind of gives Red a
Give
job
Red
identity.
give Red better Warrior of Light support.
Yeah,
Like,
which is something else we didn't mention before, but like another problem with Red is that there's not a lot of like title and job support. Because if you look at like Blue and Green, where there's tons of standard unit support, or if you look at Earth that has like monk support and 11 title support, even a level or 7 title support, and then Ice has tons of title 13 support, and like everything has something like that, but Fire not so much. The standard unit support's pretty bad.
Yeah.
But that being said, they do have Warrior of Light support, and it's good. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And then despite all of this, and despite everything else that we said, it also still has great summons, and arguably one of the best summons in Phoenix from Opus 5.
Yeah, that's a card that gets splashed in a lot of different stuff. My favorite is 15 backup Master Race. Props to the person who came up with that.
Yeah.
But like that card, that deck runs 3 Phoenix just to use it, just to runs 3 so you can use 1 to pitch for another and
and
go for it, and it's so.
Yeah, we're even seeing like slight support for Phoenix in this is an off-color card, but Dark Fina, where it is just a play summon.
Yep.
And Phoenix is worth running. It's like we mentioned before, insane. It's an absolutely insane card.
Yeah,
and
it's really good. It's probably my favorite fire summon.
Yeah.
I didn't like it as much at first, but the more I look at it and the more I use it, I'm like, I'm really late to this game. I'm really late to this card.
Yeah.
I discovered it, 3 sets late?
Yeah.
2.5?
2.5, yeah. But, so, Fire does have its strengths, but also has a lot of weaknesses. We hope that it will get better. Right now, it's looking like it's going to get better, and I think it'd be very pessimistic to say, like, Fire will never really get played.
Yeah, that's also really naive and arrogant, I would say.
Yeah.
Because there's no way they're not going to make it better. They want all these colors played. They want the whole game balanced.
Yeah, like, they are listening to us.
Yeah.
We know that.
They learned their mistake from chapters.
Yeah.
They're just trying to figure out how to rectify those mistakes.
Yeah.
And so far, I think they're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
There's a few things I'd change, but, oh well. You know what? It's a good game. We like it enough to make a podcast about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ending, but
Yeah.
You'll find a new partner, Ty.
Yeah.
It's okay.
We'll see you next week.
We'll find it out. We'll figure it out.
But
Next week, I'm just going to show up scarred. Like, the attack on my life has left me scarred and default.
I didn't tell you I'd set myself on fire in a flame retardant suit. Trying to find like a loophole around it.
Right? They said the of glove was gonna protect me against fire.
Of glove? Oh my god.
The only part of me that's fine is the part that was covered by the glove. Fake marketing.
Yeah.
Terrible.
We'll see. But yeah, so that was our episode about Mono Fire. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Feel free to put your opinions on Fire in the comments. Do you think it's already good? Do you think it doesn't need any help? Do you think it's overpowered? Do you think it's so meta warping and so good that it needs worse cards?
No, Fire is like Gandhi. Fire's like Gandhi, where it's just so aggressive it wraps back around. Well, actually, no, it's so peaceful that it wraps around to too aggressive.
Yeah, but feel free to throw your thoughts in the comments. We have a Ko-fi if you want to donate to it.
Give this video a like if you love Fire, and give it a like if you hate Fire, and just like the video.
Just like
please,
obviously. Please. Yeah, like, subscribe, comment. The usual. We have our coffee linked in the description down below. It's gonna go into the show. We have a very jank setup right now, and we're more than happy to, improve it. And then I think we mentioned last episode we were hoping to get an arm so we could do some box openings and maybe even some games and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so thanks for tuning in.
Have a good one.